The brassy Indian sun rises over tiger country. The Samba stag eats in peace. For the moment, no alarm calls from jungle companions break the dawn silence. But somewhere in the sun-striped shadows, the tiger is waiting. Who could ever claim that the lion is king of the beasts? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? When the stars threw down their spears and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? William Blake, the 19th century English poet, was a deeply religious man who felt that God had surpassed himself when he created the tiger. Today we might question his views on evolution, but could anyone argue with his poetic vision? Tiger, tiger, burning bright. The tiger is the most elusive, the biggest, the most powerful, the most fearsome of the great cats. The cat with a reputation for preying upon man. Silent, usually hidden, deadly and utterly beautiful. An animal that rarely deigns to appear in the full light of day. By instinct, a walker in darkness, a hunter in the long shadows of the moon. The tiger's home is generally the steaming jungles of the Far East. But it has many homes, and once had many more. In some ways, the snows suit its hot temperament better than the tropic heat, as this Russian archive film shows. A young Siberian tiger is captured by Russian wildlife rangers and their dogs. They're catching it for transfer to an area where it can no longer prey on local farmers' stock. Tigers are quite at home in the frozen north. Today, one of their problems is keeping cool in the hot climates to which they later migrated. It is thought that tigers originated in the snows of Siberia. From there, they were driven south by ice ages to the Near and Far East. Only 50 years ago, the 6 known races of tiger occupied this area. By 1975, their range had shrunk to this. Indochina held around 2,000. India, the traditional stronghold, was down to 1,800 tigers. The thick forests of Sumatra hid about 800. The lowlands of Nepal, the Terai, contained 200. The Sundarbans of Bangladesh held around 20. There were 12 Javan tigers left. Iran and the Caspian area still continue to produce rumors of tigers, but no definite confirmation that they exist. China once had thousands, but they're effectively unprotected there. The tiny Balinese tiger is thought to be extinct. The tiger has always captured our imagination. This prehistoric saber-toothed tiger, which lived 30 million years ago, was only leopard-sized. From saber-tooth to modern art, the magic keeps its hold. Magic captured in Henri Rousseau's marvelous, if unrealistic, Tropical Storm with a Tiger. The illustrator of this early book of beasts had obviously never seen a tiger. But the Romans had. This 2,000-year-old mosaic comes from Cyprus. The Mughals invaded India from Mongolia in the 14th century and ruled for 300 years. They loved to hunt tiger. Savage as this scene is, they understood conservation, one emperor even laying down plans for a tiger reserve. A descendant of the Mughals built this life-sized musical tiger, devouring a European. Known as Tipu's tiger, it was the favorite after-dinner entertainment of Tipu Sultan, the ruler of Mysore in southern India. Tipu had a superstitious reverence for the tiger, only exceeded by his loathing for the invading British infidel. The British defeated and killed him at Seringapatam in 1799. It is the savagery of the tiger that fascinates. The Maharaja's victim has been given fangs of a viciousness never seen in nature. In this later painting, the tiger almost dwarfs the elephant. It is said that the main fear of every Briton arriving in India was that he would be eaten by a tiger. The artist was always ready to oblige, even if the picture did not tell the true story. Throughout the Far East, the tiger is a magic animal. In Malaya, a single whisker ground up in a portion of tiger flesh or bone is said to kill a man. In Indonesia, tiger milk is a cure for sore eyes and powdered bone for a dog bite. In Tiger Balm Garden is an extraordinary monument to a cure-all that embodies in a single ointment most of the magical properties attributed to various portions of the tiger's anatomy. There is practically nothing that this panacea won't fix. Coughs, stomachache, nausea, and believe it or not, even halitosis. "50 years ago, there were 40,000 tigers in India. Today, there is a fraction of that number. What caused the disaster? Remembering the great tiger hunts of the Maharajas, it is tempting to answer the gun, but that would be far less than the truth. This unique early colour film was shot for his own personal record by Lord Linlithgow, Viceroy of India in the late 30s. The hunt had been set up in his honour and that of the First Lady, the Vicereine. The tiger hunt, with all its ceremonial and panoply, was part of the hospitality of that vanished era. Today it may seem strange, looked at through our more conservation-conscious eyes. But to have refused an Eastern prince's invitation to such a hunt would have been a diplomatic insult. And there were still plenty of tigers left to hunt. Under the British, the rules were strict and the bags usually reasonable. Of course, there were excesses. One Maharaja accounted for 1,150 tigers in his lifetime. Among the princes, a big slaughter was often a status symbol. Everyone was mounted on elephant back, including the beaters, who moved off to encircle a large tract of country known to contain a tiger. The guns rode in howdahs, basket-like affairs that gave them some protection should a tiger spring, as well as a steady platform from which to fire. The ring was built next. It consisted of a large U-shaped barrier of white cloth, open at the end from which the beaters and tiger would be coming. It may seem surprising the tiger didn't leap over or burst through the cloth, but any wild animal, even a tiger, is scared of the unfamiliar. To it, the cloth is an impenetrable, encircling wall. From far off, the beaters are coming. The guns on their elephants wait nervously outside the ring. The tiger is just ahead in that tall grass. And there it is suddenly clawing at that rear elephant. In view of the present-day plight of the tiger, we may find this scene shocking. But the tiger hunters of the British Raj knew the value of conservation, if only because they wanted more tigers to hunt. They preserved the most important thing of all, the kind of country in which the tiger lives. Today, former hunting preserves are the main places in which the tiger survives. This, rather than the gun, is the weapon the tiger must fear today. Throughout its range, the forests are coming down, and the tiger cannot live without forests. In India, it has almost complete protection from firearms. Alas, the chainsaw is more deadly than the bullet. This is what it kills: tiger country. Country not only for tigers, but for every other large wild animal. And for some small ones too. This rickety tiger cub was found in a field of sugarcane. The mother had given birth and then taken fright at the sound of human voices, leaving the cub to starve. It is symptomatic of the other great pressure that threatens the tiger, the sheer weight of human numbers throughout the Far East. Tigers and people don't mix well. One loses out. Inevitably, it's the tiger. Despite the efforts of rangers and vets, this cub survived only a couple of weeks. So what can be done to give the tiger a chance? The only possible answer is to set some forested areas aside, free from people and safe from the tree feller. Such an area is Tiger Haven and the Dudhwa National Park in northern India. Dudhwa has forest, full protection by the Indian government, and a stock of wild tigers. It also has the full-time concern of Billy Arjun Singh, a passionate conservationist. Arjun Singh believes that the time will come when wild stock can be reinforced with tigers bred in captivity, provided the habitat is protected. Inside the crate is a tiger cub, born in England at Twycross Zoo, presented by the Frankfurt Zoological Society to the Prime Minister of India as a gift and pilot experiment for such introductions. The cub has just flown from England and made a long, exhausting road journey from Delhi. Arjun Singh supervises her disembarkation outside his farm at Tiger Haven. Her name is Tara, which means star, and she's 3 months old. Up to now, she's lived behind bars. From now on, her life will be one of increasing freedom. Arjun Singh is one of India's leading conservationists. He's been honored by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, which subscribed $1 million to India's $5 million Project Tiger, an all-out drive to save the animal in the wild. Project Tiger has subsequently been successful, with more than 4,000 tigers now in India. Arjun Singh has an extraordinary rapport with big cats. Even for him, to teach a zoo-born tiger to go wild is not a light undertaking. But he had already successfully reared and returned 2 leopards to the jungle. It might be a long process, but he felt reasonably confident he could do the same with Tara. What threatened to be the trickiest introduction of all passed off quite peacefully. Harriet is one of the leopards that Billy has already taught to live wild, but she often returns to the farm for visits and showed herself quite willing to play with Tara. So Billy started Tara's training by taking her for walks in the forest. Tara, as befits a tiger, was a cat who liked to walk alone. She almost ignored Harriet, who sometimes joined them. These early walks served a useful purpose, to get Tara used to the sights and sounds of the forest. Sights like the deer she'd one day hunt, bounding across the forest track. After a month, Billy Arjun Singh took her within sight and sound of a large herd of swamp deer to see what she'd make of them. Arjun Singh has no illusions about the future of Tara's kind. He repeatedly points out that less than half of India's estimated 4,000 tigers live in protected forests. The remainder he calls forgotten tigers, safe from firearms and the now illegal trade in tiger skins, but completely at the mercy of anyone who wishes to destroy their homes for a short-term profit in timber. He hopes his government will act to protect the forests in all of its 200 national parks and sanctuaries, not just the 18 tiger reserves as at present. Otherwise, what is the sense of teaching a tiger cub like Tara to live free in the wild, when the wild may no longer be there? This time the swamp deer escaped. But Tara will grow and learn, and in the safety of Dudwa she will be able to put her skills to good use. What of those other tigers, the forgotten tigers, not only in India, but across the face of the Far East? The tiger would far rather hunt wild animals than man. Those are its natural prey, but even the mighty tiger doesn't have a chance of catching deer in the open in broad daylight. Daylight is for relaxation. In the daytime, the tiger seeks the shade. The striped markings vary from individual to individual. When the ears are turned forward, the white spots become an aggressive signal. From tip of tail to muzzle, a big male tiger measures 10 feet. The canine teeth for killing and holding are often 5 inches long. The claws in the huge pads are retractile. The tongue used for tearing hair and skin from prey is as rough as a rasp. A big male weighs 500 to 600 pounds, a female around 350. The Chinese have a proverb, Two tigers cannot share one hill. Until recently, it was thought that the tiger was as solitary as the saying suggests. But now scientists are finding that tigers associate in the jungle more frequently than was thought. Basically, though, they keep to their own home ranges, which may cover as much as 25 square miles. They let each other know they're around by roaring and by scent marking. This tigress is sniffing the scent at the base of a tree. Her expression indicates that what she has detected is her own scent. Tigers have a rather poor sense of smell. At least they don't seem to use it when hunting to find prey. At short range, when detecting each other's scent, it is obviously adequate. But then the scent glands of a tiger produce a powerful secretion. Its smell has been known to linger for 3 weeks. Tigers vary in colour from tawny yellow to orangey red. The stripe pattern provides perfect camouflage amid trees or in reeds and tall grass. Tigers have been known to leap 18 feet into a tree in an attempt to claw a hunter perched in the branches. Normally, though, they're too heavy for tree climbing. They have a special use for trees, though no one yet knows the precise purpose. With an action very like a domestic cat, they rake their claws down the trunk. It may be just to clean and sharpen them. Fragments of claws are sometimes found embedded in the bark. But individuals repeatedly use the same tree, so these deep and fearful claw marks may well be another device for marking out their home ranges. A mugger, a big marsh crocodile, launches itself. A tiger has disturbed it. But the tiger takes no notice. Tigers are good swimmers. Of all the cat family, they take most readily to water. Aquatic sports are an important part of the daily life of the tiger. The reason is once again traceable to the tiger's distant origins. It still wears a heavy coat and likes to keep cool. In the Sundarbans, a swampy mangrove area on the coast, the tigers regularly commute between islands, swimming confidently across open water. Once ashore, the tiger does its disappearing trick, stripes hiding it effectively even among green reeds. A tigress takes her daily bath. On the opposite side of the river, a magnificent adult male lies full length to while away the hot hours of the day. He lives in Dudhwa National Park. He's never been hunted. He's watchful, though, even of floating leaves, but he's not in the least apprehensive. If someone appeared on the riverbank, he'd almost certainly run away. It was once thought that all tigers were potential man-eaters, but now we know better. A crocodile is far more dangerous to man than the tiger. Jim Corbett, the great hunter-naturalist, estimated that perhaps 3 in every 1,000 tigers turned man-eater. They did so usually because they'd been wounded in jaw or teeth and could no longer hunt their natural prey. Or perhaps they'd eaten an unburied human body and acquired the taste. Whatever the reason, they were the rare exception and had to be killed. The legend of the man-eater came mostly from hunters who often had very good reason to fear the animal they hunted. Left alone, the tiger is no more cunning or treacherous than any other predator. The tiger is mainly a hunter by night, but sometimes at dusk or in the early morning. Its taste in food is surprisingly wide. Birds, frogs, fish, even mollusks. But principally it seeks big meals: buffalo, young rhino, and of course deer. swamp deer know the tiger is around and fill the air with alarm calls. This time they escape. They frequently do. The tiger often goes 3 days without making a kill. Though a tiger sometimes eats 100 pounds of meat at a sitting, it will catch what it can. These grey langurs spend a lot of time on the ground and are therefore fair game, if the tiger can grab one. Death is instantaneous. Because tigers are essentially nocturnal, filming them at night calls for intensive preparation and highly specialized camera equipment. Traditionally, hunters build a hide or mashan high in a tree and sit there all night if necessary until the tiger passes below. When the camera team, Dieter Plage and Mike Price, built a mashan to film tiger at night, it was on level terms with the tiger, on the ground, a far more dangerous location. They used an image intensifier. Attached to a camera, it enables normal lenses to see in the dark. This highly sophisticated electronic device was developed by the army as a gun sight for sniping in total darkness. The transport returns to base, leaving the night to Plage, Price, and the tiger. When darkness falls outside, the tension builds up. So do the mosquitoes. The intensifier is switched on to reveal the world of the nighttime jungle. A shape approaches on the far bank. The prehistoric bulk of a great one-horned rhinoceros looms out of the darkness. Perhaps the rhino is cautious because it knows that night is the time when the tiger prowls. Inside the mashan, nerves get jumpy, but not because the rhino is advancing on their flimsy hide. They know the rhino would shy away rather than touch it. Something tells them the tiger is very close, but so intent is their concentration on the rhino that they little know how close. victim is a young buffalo. A hog deer calls and stamps its foot in alarm. After it is killed, the tiger drags its victim away into the undergrowth to devour it in the darkness of the Indian jungle. The camera team's meetings with tigers were usually in daylight. They seldom had a closer encounter than the day on which Mike Price climbed to the hide he had set up on a tiger trail in Chitwan National Park. Chitwan is a former royal hunting area which His Majesty the King of Nepal has declared a national park. In a short time, its tigers have learnt that they are safe to move around much more freely in daylight. This suggests that tigers everywhere were far less nocturnal before man began to harass them. Price lined up his camera and waited. It can be a lonely business waiting for a tiger in a canvas hide. Suddenly it appeared out of nowhere. Even if you know about tigers, this is the moment when you have to persuade yourself very hard that only 3 in 1,000 are man-eaters. The tiger moved up the bank. It was close to the hide. Price took his camera off the tripod and held it by hand. He said afterwards that he was deafened by his own heartbeats. When he looked out of the other slit, the tiger was looking in. The thudding of his heart was even felt by the shaking camera. Fortunately, the tiger was not a man-eater. The image of the tiger has been enhanced by work currently being carried out in the Royal Chitwan National Park. A whole new fund of knowledge has sprung from research financed by the Smithsonian Institute of Washington and the Worldwide Fund for Nature. In the pale light following sunrise, long lanes of white cloth are set up, very similar to those used to make the killing ring in the old-style tiger hunts. The white cloths form a long funnel, the narrow end of which is left open. The tiger will be driven down this funnel to be shot with an anesthetic dart. The darter is a Nepalese scientist, Kirti Tamang, who was trained at Michigan State University. His scientific colleagues, working on the Smithsonian Tiger Ecology Project, are both Nepalese and American. The objective when and if a tiger is darted is to put a radio transmitter around its neck. This will give out a signal that can be tracked wherever it goes. The capture gun is loaded with the anesthetic dart and a low-velocity charge placed behind it. Just as in a tiger hunt, the beaters are mounted on elephants. This is true tiger country, grass up to 25 feet high. The tiger is some way ahead and not particularly alarmed. A samba stag. For him too, the beaters are still far distant. A few minutes later, disturbed animals begin to run. That's a samba. A rhino huffs and puffs, snorts and wheezes, not sure which is the correct course to take. Rhinos do not have very good eyesight, and in emergency tend to look for anything or anyone to charge. The beating elephants sense that the tiger is just ahead in the thick grass. A mahout urges the lead elephant forward. It is not in a tiger's nature to panic. Curti Tamang has done this often before, but it doesn't stop his palms from sweating. The tiger has reached the open end of the funnel and passes under one of the cameramen. The dart is safely home. The tiger will run a little way before the drug begins to work. It must be watched closely and followed. The dart is in its shoulder. The tiger won't get much further. 5 minutes is the maximum time the drug needs to take effect, but the animal could easily be lost, at least temporarily, inside those 5 minutes. Curti Tamang approaches his peacefully sleeping victim, a magnificent adult female. She's collapsed on the dart. It won't have done any harm, only the needle will have pierced the skin. The thick body of the dart is designed so that there can be no risk of it penetrating, even with over 300 pounds of tiger lying on top of it. The Smithsonian scientists decided that the only way of learning about tiger movement and behavior in the dense vegetation of the jungle was to track them by radio. The anesthetic dart made this possible without harmful after effects. Already a great deal has been learnt about the tigers of Chitawan. The pillow of leaves is to prevent the unconscious tiger from breathing in dust. One thing that has been discovered by radio tracking is that though tigers are essentially loners, they socialize far more at kills than anyone had previously imagined. It's been discovered too how brief are their encounters when mating. Afterwards, male and female go their separate ways. They're certainly not monogamous. The 3 resident males darted at Chitawan mated with any female in season. Adult females were either pregnant or had dependent young all the time. There's a lot of work to be done while the effects of the drug last. Curti Tamang takes identification photographs. Tigers can often be identified by their pug marks, So the pads are accurately measured and any distinguishing features noted. Canine teeth also. There's almost as much tooth inside the gum as shows in the mouth. The panting is a harmless side effect of the drug. The tigress is given water to keep her cool. It's poured on the tongue so she won't choke. It's time for the radio collar to be fitted. If the collar is not retrieved by later darting, it will fall off of its own accord after 2 years. Each miniature transmitter has a different wavelength, so that it's a simple matter to identify which animal is being tracked. A check to ensure that the transmitter is putting out its signal. All's well. A tigress is on the air. Now she will be moved into the shade to sleep off the anesthetic in her own time. It was during her recovery that our camera team got another nasty shock. As she was beginning to come round, Mike Price ran out of film and had to climb down to fetch another magazine. The tigress was considerably more alert than he had bargained for. Mercifully, the drug hadn't entirely worn off. But it did so very shortly afterwards, and she made off, a little unsteadily, into the jungle. Radio tracking is often done from light aircraft. But in Nepal, another form of transport is more readily available. A good deal of the Smithsonian Project's tracking has been done from elephant back. You can't pick up signals from so great a distance as when flying low over the jungle, but an elephant does enable you to get closer to your target and observe items of behavior you could never hope to spot from the air. From an elephant, the range of a transmitting tiger is anything from 2 miles to 30 yards. Beneath the snows of the Himalayan peaks, the sun is setting over tiger country. Darkness is the time of the tiger. But what sort of a future is there for this, the most glorious of cats? In the last 15 years, new reserves have been established in India, Nepal and Bangladesh. In some cases, tiger numbers have increased. But many of the reserves are too small to prevent inbreeding. The tiger's future is by no means secure. The deer move nervously as the hunter approaches. They will be no better off if they lose their ancient enemy. The land that supports the tiger supports them also. It is tiger country itself that's at stake. But it's not their turn yet, not this particular night. A tiger has killed elsewhere. Few people have ever seen 4 tigers together on a kill. This extraordinary scene was filmed in the Royal Chitwan National Park. It seems tigers can share a kill without tearing each other to pieces. They're not just sinister solitaries. But knowledge itself may not be enough. Wisdom too will be called for if the tiger is not to dwindle and fade from the jungles of Asia as a whole. That man of religious vision and great artistry, William Blake, put it best when he wrote, "Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night." The question is, how long will there be forests in Asia for the tiger's fire to shine in?
Next Sunday, tune in, turn on, get wild on 5 with a zoo of animal telly. We begin at 5 with The Last Show on Earth, narrated by Kenneth Branagh, with music by Sting, Kate Bush and Elton John. This powerful film looks at man's relationship with the natural world. Man on a Mission, Nick's Quest at 7.
It's been around for almost 2 million years. It's been hunted, its habitat destroyed. The Cuban crocodile could soon face extinction in the wild. I was determined to see one before it was too late.
Wolf hybrids. Are any of these animals safe around the home? What's the story at 7:30? Questions and answers from aardvark to zebra. Test your knowledge in the wildlife quiz at 8. Jollies at 8:30.
Join me, Simon Bly, and all my friends. Animal Madness. Yo ho ho.
This lion tamer is afraid of mice. Pigeons, spiders, what's your phobia? Scary animals and super creeps at 9. A whole evening of animal magic with the furry, feathered and fanged. Come on safari with us. Wild on 5 starts at 5 next Sunday.
Next tonight, a premiere and a television treat. An all-star cast do their bit for entente